Okay, hi, this is Jolynn from Wild Pony Eventing, and we're here today with Jen Ralph. Hi,
Hi,
how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. Can you tell us a little bit about your horse history and how you got into Mustangs?
Sure. So my very first horse actually is a Mustang.
Mhm.
He's 41 now. I
Wow.
got him, yeah. I got him back in 1995 when I was in high school. And I've pretty much had them ever since. I grew up in Connecticut and kind of a show barn atmosphere, and I was the only one with a little red roan Mustang. Everyone else had these big warm bloods and stuff. So he was my first horse and kind of got me hooked on Mustangs.
Wow. So how did you even get him in 95 on the East Coast?
So he actually came from like an auction house. It's called Heritage. Well, it was called Heritage. It's since closed. But they
Mhm.
used to bring in, loads of horses from out west, and they would sell them, put a couple rides on them, see what they were, and then sell them to, local schools and, riding places, stuff like that. And that's where we found them.
Okay. Do you know what herd he's from?
I don't. He was
No.
actually born domestically, so I don't know what his mother's herd was.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
and in 1995 in that type in Connecticut, they weren't promoting anything was a Mustang, that was for sure. Nobody thought
Yeah.
much of him. So the fact that they told me, I was like, okay, so and he looks, in his face, he's got very Roman nose and stuff. So, you can see the Mustang in him for sure.
Okay. And so what discipline were you riding and what were you doing with horses?
It was hunter jumpers
Uh-huh.
back then, and so the barn I worked at, they would go up there and buy horses sometimes. So I went with them, and that's kind of how I found him. His name was Rockin' Rodney when I when I got him, and when they brought him out and they went to stitch him up, he about took the guy's arm off,
Oh,
and I was like, okay, great. But I hopped on him, and within 5 minutes, I was like, I'll take him. This is
wow.
the horse. So.
What was it about him?
You, honestly, I went over to talk to the woman that I went with, and she was talking to the owner, and he stood there like a statue, like just there was chaos in the background, everything. He just stood there, and I was like, this is perfect. And from the day I brought him home, I mean, he did therapeutic riding for children in wheelchairs. There
Wow.
would be a dump truck loading, dumping shavings in the indoor in the corner, and he just wasn't a spooky guy.
Yeah.
So, and he could sit for a year, and you could take him out, hop on him, and he was the same horse day in and day out.
Wow. And how old was he when you got him?
9-ish, I think.
Okay. Wow.
You
Okay.
never really know.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you get from there to being the Mustang trainer we know now?
So I pretty much only had him for a long time. And then, growing up in sort of the show atmosphere where I was, I thought I wanted one of those big, warm bloods
Yeah.
or, maybe an off the track thoroughbred, something like that. So that's kind of where my horse journey went. I started to get into that. I bought a couple of them, had them for a few years, and just decided I didn't like it as much as I thought I did. And then I found another Mustang for sale on Facebook, and, reached out to the person and said, hey, what is this? I didn't end up buying that one. I ended up buying a different one from that person. And then just started getting back into, everything that I do today, just slowly, there's so much to it. There's so many avenues to get a Mustang that, I had
Yeah.
no idea. So, and now that's all I do.
Okay. And who are your personal Mustangs right now? I
Well,
gotta
this
go
needs
put
to
you
be
on
a
the
short
spot with
interview,
that
right?
one.
There's a lot. A couple of highlights. I've got one of mine's Annabelle. She was wild bred, domestic born to a Devil's Garden. So I've had her since she was about 7 months. So we just started light riding last year. The first completely wild I trained myself. His name is Cricket. I got him in 2018. And he was such a cheater Mustang, like from the first, I mean, 15 minutes, I had the tag off, the halter on, and I was picking up his feet, like just incredible. And let's see, who else should we talk about? I've got Troubadour. He's my silver dapple. He's 3 and he's almost 16 hands already. So
Wow. What age
Oregon,
are they?
sheep's head.
Oh yeah, they're big.
Yep. Yep, those Oregon horses, they're
Yes.
tall. And I like small, so I'm not sure why I keep going that way, but there's pretty much any size, shape, color, build that you're looking for, Mustangs have it. So, there's really something for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. So tell us a little bit about the things you do in the Mustang community right now.
So we have an adoption event coming up in New Hampshire in April. So I just started calling it like a Mustang social. There's a local sandwich ice cream shop that renting for a couple hours. So people can come, people in the community who want to know about Mustangs, want to know how to adopt, what are all these acronyms? The paperwork can be a little overwhelming if you've never done it before. And just a chance to sit down and talk to people. So this is the first one we're going to be doing of that. So hopefully that will start enticing some people. I've done the tip training, some local people that have wanted Mustangs, so it didn't have the facility. They've come here, they've boarded with me, trained with me.
Mhm.
Some are still here, some are 5 minutes down the road at their own personal homes now. I've done the tip challenges. One of the members of one of the Mustang communities on Facebook. So a little bit of everything.
Okay. Tell us about some of your tip challenge experiences.
So it's a bit overwhelming at first, because you think in your head you've got this timeline that you have to meet.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the first thing you need to forget about is the timeline, because then you're just every day you're looking at the clock and you're not thinking about the horse. So really, if somebody gets into it, just take it day by day. Every horse is different, and some of them excel really fast and in the beginning and some really fast at the end. So just understanding that, and you have a community, other trainers, everybody rallies around each other. It's not you against them. It's really for the horses, which makes it amazing.
Yeah. So how many challenges have you done so far?
Just the one. And unfortunately on the East Coast, we have one in Mass, which is a really good one. They have a lot of the youth that do that one. I haven't done that one yet, but that's very popular up here. And then I think Pennsylvania is probably like the next closest that you really start seeing them. But unfortunately on the East Coast, we don't get a lot.
Yeah.
At least not yet.
So what are the challenges having a farm that, I mean, you specialize in Mustangs, so how do you get them? Because I know a lot of adopters on the East Coast who are interested often find out they can't get the horses that they want transported out here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously every once in a while they come all the way to New England, every couple years. Usually, if you're in New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, there's a storefront in Ohio that a lot of people can travel to. Other than that, I try to, get them. I have a great friend who's an amazing hauler. She goes all over the country and picks horses up. So, if somebody sees something they want at a facility, there's a network of trainers and people that, help house the Mustangs temporarily that you can connect with, that if there's one out there you really want, the network is incredible.
Yeah. Where is the storefront in Ohio?
Oh, that is a good question. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. But it is one that somebody could drive to and get a horse dropped off at that storefront.
Yeah, so she brings in horses pretty regularly. And she'll always post when she's getting a load in. So, and if you're interested in adopting, you send in your application and stuff, but, she brings them in pretty regularly. And then I think maybe the next closest would be, Rebecca's in Tennessee.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us a little bit about the process that you use gentling these horses? And I know you mentioned timeline and trying to ignore timelines, but how do you deal with those timeline issues?
So every horse, I definitely take it as an individual.
Mhm.
And my training has changed a lot. The more horses I work with, the more my training changes. I've had ones that, from day one I went in there and I was like, okay, we're gonna work on this, we're gonna work on this, because you could see that they were okay with it.
Mhm.
And then there's other times where you walk in and they just, they're ready to jump off, jump out the other side of the pen. You go, okay, well, maybe I'm just gonna start with hanging out, doing some stuff outside your pen, and then slowly, make my way in. And I've even had a few that, I was like, just sit here, decompress for a week or two. And
Mhm.
then their curiosity, it helped to go so much faster than if I just went into the pen and was like, all right, let's do this. So, it really, I try to spend a little time just sort of analyzing them and seeing kind of what their personality is. Are they a more confident horse? Are they a little more spooky? Are they very curious? I love the ones that are curious. Those are my
Mhm.
favorite, especially teaching them, tricks and stuff like that. But I take it horse by horse.
Okay. Have you had many very difficult or reactive horses?
Not really. I've had a couple. I always call those the 51st dates horses. You kind of do the same thing over and over again. And, even if it's 1% better than the last time you were in there, you're making progress. And that's
Yeah.
where, I feel like humans a lot of times can be very direct line thinkers. We see the end result, but you don't realize that there's like 15 little steps in there to get to that one result. And whenever I see a horse that's starting to hit a wall, I go, okay, so what is the step before this step? So, whatever I'm trying to do, if I want to slip the, halter over the ears, okay, they're not ready for that. So is it just, sliding it to hit the tip of the ear repeatedly until they're like, okay, that doesn't make them flinch anymore, or
Mhm.
is it just holding it up there? Is that too much? So just try to think what's a step, less than this that they can get comfortable with first. And that's helped me a lot.
Okay. When you do tip training, how do you deal with the timeline issues? I mean, sometimes that's pressure for some horses.
It is. And, you have to be honest with, if you have someone that's interested in the horse,
Mhm.
you have to be honest with them and say, I really think this horse is going to do, really well. We're going to make the timeline, or, these are the opportunities that we have. This is where, we might struggle. We might need some, participation from the adopter, whenever possible is great, because a lot of times, the trust doesn't transfer. And
Yeah.
so they might do it for me, but when their new owner comes along and tries it, they haven't had that relationship built yet. So, whenever possible, that's a huge part of it as well.
Okay. That's an interesting topic because I see that a lot on like Facebook pages, people saying the tip trainer said the horse did XYZ and they came to my house and they don't. How do you support your adopters and what kind of things help to make those things transfer?
Well, I think, what we don't realize is everybody's energy is different.
Mhm.
Everyone's movements, how you move, the way you ask for the level of, intensity that you ask for something. So, if you can do videos, if you can't do one-on-one, and show how you ask, or, when you put pressure, or, what particular tools you're using, even something as simple as a rope halter versus a web halter, things
Yeah.
that they're comfortable with, and showing them and say, look, try this. Let's, start from this. And, don't just, grab them out of the stall and be like, this is what we're going to do. Let them get to know you, just groom them, give them a cookie, just hang out with them for a couple minutes here and there. Let them get to know you before you just, start trying to, conquer the world with them.
Yeah. Okay. Have you had situations where you've gotten horses back?
I haven't gotten any horses back. I have had horses, need continued training, or that a horse, would like, I've had a boarder that, the horse was doing something for me, but not for them. So, I would show
Yeah.
them, okay, this is me. I'm going to show them, I'm going to ask them. And then, you can see, their reaction. And now I want you to do it and you try, and then, be able to stand there and give them tips, which is really nice.
Yeah. Do you typically tip for uh for local people, or are, yeah, okay. That seems like the ideal situation, to have your adopter be local.
Makes it a lot easier, especially if they need that one-on-one attention, than trying to help, just via phone or pictures or video. So, it definitely does help.
Okay. So versatility. I know a lot of trainers really like to highlight versatility of the Mustangs. Can you talk about a little bit about what either your Mustangs or adopted Mustangs have done post gentling in terms of the amount of versatility what these horses are doing out in the world?
So for my personal Mustangs, I really enjoy trail riding. I really like obstacles, obstacle courses, things like that. Tricks, love tricks. And my tick challenge mare, she actually lives in Maine, with a girl who moved here from the Netherlands. And
Oh,
she
wow.
was a trainer there, who specialized in liberty training, trick training.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so she does that with her there. And honestly, I couldn't have found a better fit, for
Wow.
those two. Silver King mare, super smart, super, super smart. She could learn a trick in 5 minutes, and they were just the perfect match. So, she's done that with her. I have another one who she actually keeps her horse with me, and she wants to do trail riding. She's been out of horses for a long time. So, she's, just getting back into things. But it's been incredible because the filly that, she ended up with is just super sweet, super smart, very forgiving. So, they're able to kind of learn together under my guidance.
Uh-huh.
And, I'm not sure if she'll ever want to do like shows or anything, but she would definitely like to take her to events and show off, how great the Mustangs are. So
Yeah. I think it's important that we talk to people about a wide variety of what these horses do, because I mean, there are some high profile, doing certain sports and out showing, and
yep,
but most are not. Most are just
yep.
being solid citizens and trail riding or pleasure riding or being a pony club kid or a 4-H kid's horse. So it's helpful to hear the other stories as well. Do you ever compete?
So, that's one thing I don't enjoy, like the large crowds and doing all of that. It's not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I'm really more of I prefer to do it in my backyard, my own time kind of thing. And then, you know, sort of the end result just on a lower level as far as, displaying them. But it's not, yeah, no, I never have. It's
Yeah.
not one of those things that I was ever really like super competitive that way. I
Even
kind
in
of
the
wish I
hunter
was,
jumper?
huh?
Even in the hunter jumper world, you didn't show?
Little schooling shows that they had at the farm, but I never went with them when they would trailer away or do anything like that. We did like drill team and stuff that was
Yeah.
there, a lot of on-farm stuff. So it
Yeah.
wasn't as daunting to me mentally.
Okay. Okay. So, what kind of training methods do you use? Like, we've talked to some trainers who are like positive reinforcement 90%, and others talk a lot about just pressure release. What kind of methods do you bring to the horses?
It's probably a combination of mostly those two, in some aspect. My training's changed a lot, over the years. One of the things that I don't really do anymore is I don't round pen. I don't ask a horse to move its feet. Especially in the beginning, that, I just want them to trust me. And,
Yeah.
I want them to feel comfortable with me. And I found that, with a lot of them, asking them to move their feet in the beginning actually stressed them out more. And so for me, I shy away from that now. Now, obviously, if, it was a situation where a horse got aggressive or, charged at me and it was a safety thing, then I would ask them to move away. But in the beginning now, I don't do it that way anymore.
Okay. What what is the thinking behind that? Because I had a similar experience. Like, round penning was the thing you were supposed to do when I got my first Mustangs, and I failed at it terribly because my horses didn't want to be sent away. That was just making them more frightened.
I don't know where that came from. I mean, I watched a lot of videos that seemed to be what everyone was doing,
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of the journey that is training multiple Mustangs, is learning what works for you,
yeah,
your personality, your energy, just what do you bring into the table? Maybe that's not the right fit for you. And my tip challenge mare, Rowena, she's the one that really solidify that for me, because she was the type that if you sent her and your energy was like, move your feet, she would just get so worked up that that's when she would actually get aggressive. Was
ah,
you had to watch your energy and ask things with such politeness that you really learn to refine how light is an ask,
yeah,
how lightly can I ask you to do something. And she was probably one of my greatest teachers, because I learned that from her. And I'm still learning it, obviously, but it's definitely not, it's not the right fit for me as a trainer anyway.
right, okay. And so you have a huge variety of horses in terms of HMAs and whatnot. Do you have favorites, but not just individuals, but HMAs?
So I think that's a tough question, and
Yeah,
only because I have found every time you say an HMA that you love, you'll find 10 people that agree with you and 10 people that don't. So I
yeah,
think it's such a horse by horse basis that, I try not to, I don't even look at HMA half the time. Like if I go to an adoption event, because a lot of times they'll just say the state anyway,
yeah,
I'll just be like, I'll go pick the horse before I ever look at the paperwork to see where they're from. And because I, I think they just all are so individual. I've
yeah.
got some great, I have two that are from Pancake. Those two are fantastic. My Paisley Deserts have been great. Um, my gosh, Douglas, I don't know how to say it. It's in Colorado. I've had two out of there. They were fantastic. That's my Cricket, my first one. That's
Uh,
where he's from. He was a nuisance roundup. He had wandered onto private property,
oh,
so they rounded them up. Yeah,
okay.
and but yeah, so it's, and but I've had friends, who picked from this, we loaded our horses together and brought them home, and they tell you the complete opposite of what I told you. So,
Yeah,
and skilled Mustang trainers, not anybody that's new to it. So I try to keep an open mind really when it comes to them. If there's something you like, a color, some of them, their builds tend to be a certain way, go for that. That's usually
yeah.
what I say.
It seems like there's very few HMAs that really have a temperament consistency, and even then it doesn't always pan out.
Yep.
Um, so but you've found the big ones from Oregon, at least size wise, there's HMA differences.
I have a Warm Springs mare. I've got a couple Paisleys, got a bunch of Steens, now. I've got a, Sheep's Head, and I've had a Murders Creek, Oregon, horrible
Mhm.
name for an HMA.
I
Um,
know.
I don't have her anymore. She was great mare, but I just don't have her anymore. So I've had a lot of Oregon. Wyoming's good for big horses. Devil's Garden, a lot of people like them for, their drafty builds. So, everyone thinks, Mustangs are these tiny little things, but you can get as big as you want, really.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of adopters are interested in I want to adopt a Mustang and I want to event or I want to do reining or whatever. Can you talk a little bit about um, how well you can or can't take a wild horse and say, oh, that's going to be a reining horse or that's going to be an eventing horse?
So that's a tough one. So I think anytime you box a horse into a discipline, you never know what you're going to get. Even, a quarter horse that's bred for, working cows may not ever really want to work cows,
Yeah.
so I think you can take into just watching, do they seem a little cowy in the pen? Are they driving around other horses? Do they seem more apt to something like that? Um, some of them are very athletic. You see them, out in the field just running and jumping and playing. Maybe that would be a good jumper.
Mhm.
But ultimately, I just say, pick a personality you like, pick a look you like, something that looks like it could be bred for what it is that you want to do.
Mhm.
And after that, it's a little bit of luck and a lot of training.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I know people ask me, how do you know if you get a pony who will be a good event pony? And I say, you don't.
Right,
You
right,
hope. You hope. I have 1 out of 5 that events.
hmm and
So,
I think the thing is that, a lot of times people go in with a very set goal, a very specific, this is what I want. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times somebody said, this is exactly what I want. The minute, but when we're leaving that adoption event, they picked the complete opposite. It was either going to be short or tall or this color or that, mare
yeah,
gelding. And by the time they're leaving there, this is the one I love. And it's like, okay. And they enjoy whatever they end up doing with that horse.
right, right. Okay. Um, so do you have any stories to share about either difficult horses or easy horses or horses that have had unique stories that you've gentled?
Um, so unique story. So a couple years ago, we got a herd, excuse me, we got a load of horses from the Paisley Desert herd
Okay.
out of the Oregon corrals, and we hauled them back east. Well, my mare, one of my mares, decided to kick through the trailer divider.
Oh,
And she was completely wild. It was a trailer full of wild horses. And she kicked through and she got her leg stuck. And so she went down with her leg stuck through the metal. It was right where the crease was, that she hit the seam just right. And so she got her leg stuck. So thankfully, my friend Patty, who was the amazing hauler, noticed right away. They happened to be stopping. And so she found a local vet, which was really difficult because you call people up and you say, we have a wild horse on here that's down with his leg through. Not everybody's signing up for that.
no.
So, it was an older gentleman. He's been around for a long time, and he said, yep, bring him over, and
How far
so
into
they
the trip?
unloaded the, huh?
How far
They
into
were
the
in
trip?
Nebraska,
Okay,
Nebraska from Oregon coming to, New Hampshire.
right.
Um, and they unloaded the horses, and she had stopped. Thankfully, she didn't fight it very long, because we thought she broke her leg. If you saw pictures and videos, you didn't think she was going to be okay.
I'm
And
pretty sure I saw pictures on Facebook.
yeah,
Yeah,
and everybody kind of knows her by her infamous
yeah.
picture. And so we unloaded the rest of the horses. He went in there and he said, so I'm putting this horse down, right? And
Oh,
Patty's like, no. She's like, not unless it's broken. She's like, you don't know who owns this horse. She's like, she's not gonna let you put it down. And so miraculously it wasn't broken. They sedated her and they brought in the Jaws of Life from the local fire department
oh, wow.
and cut her out. And
How
so
did they get her
the vet,
sedated?
huh?
Was she just down
She
and
was
they were,
down, and I think she was just exhausted and probably emotionally kind of, just okay, do what you're gonna do. I'm stuck,
okay.
and hopefully you're gonna help me. And so yeah, they sedated her, cut her out, he bandaged her, and then they stayed over at the vet's place for a day or two, and then loaded her back up with the bandage on, and got to New Hampshire. And of course, at this point, the bandage had been on for a couple of days, and we didn't really know the extent of it. We could see what was there at the time, but what ended up actually happening was the skin, where she, got it stuck, ended up dying. And so, they unloaded her, and I said, okay, so my vet was going to come out and see, what we could do. I was like, I have 15 minutes to work with this horse before my vet gets here,
Yeah,
completely wild horse. How's this going to go? And so I got her to the point where thankfully we haltered that trip. Everyone's different, halter, don't halter, to each his own. But thank goodness we had haltered that trip, because I just clipped the lead rope on her. And once she was, took a step back and realized she couldn't just, run off, she gave into it really easy. And, by the time the vet got there, she let the vet sedate her. The vet was able to take the bandage off. That's when we realized that, it was getting infected and the skin was dying. she cleaned it, she wrapped it and said, we'll come back in a couple days. And when she came back again, she wasn't as receptive to her, giving her the sedatives. So we tried and tried and tried. She gave her probably enough for a draft horse, and she was still blowing through it.
Yeah.
And so we got the bandage off. And when we got the bandage off that time, there was about a 2-inch space where her bone was exposed because all the skin had died and fallen off. And it was, they kind of said, if you want to put her down, we can. And I wasn't ready at that point. I said, no. But she wouldn't let us rewrap it. And bone exposed to air, the bone will die. So it was a matter of just, it sounds a little gross, but between the blood and the oozing of the skin around it, it made a coating over it. And then every day, a couple times a day, I was just out there trying to rinse it. And this is a wild horse. Like she didn't want me touching her everywhere. And, that leg was coming towards my head a few times. I was standing back trying to, squirt cleaning solution on it and stuff. And it was a long journey, but it's completely healed over now. She's completely sound. There's no evidence of, the bone, being dead, having any issues with it. She's got a pretty remarkable scar to go with her story. But even that's got some hair on it now. So you really wouldn't notice it unless you spend a few minutes looking at her. And then she actually was pregnant at the time. So
my word.
She had a foal. Unfortunately, she passed away at 3 days old. So, who knows, could have been a multitude of things.
Right,
but
the trauma.
So that was sad, but it's Aura's been quite the remarkable journey. I feel like people know me through her more than anything else. So
So now that Aura is gentled, what is her personality, and is she a super smart horse?
She's smart. She's very she likes to watch things, loves to watch, especially like birds and planes. It's hysterical. She'll stand out in the paddock and you can just see her head panning back and forth as things go overhead. She's a boss mare, which is probably what got her in trouble. She was probably, kicking at somebody and being sassy that got her into the mess. But she's very much she'll allow you in her space kind of girl. But
it just seems to me like she must have been smart to have allowed that intervention at that time, because a lot of them wouldn't.
I'm to this day still surprised. I mean, I know domestic horses that probably wouldn't have allowed some of the things to happen that she did, let alone completely wild. I think she just knew like that we were trying to help her, and it was, we were either going to figure it out or not. And my boyfriend, he said to me, he goes, one day she, I was out there trying to clean it and foot came flying, and he said, I can't stand here and watch you, kill yourself trying to help this horse. And he's like, I just don't know what to do. And I said, look, I'm gonna help her one way or the other. I said, if this is how I go out, I think it was a pretty honorable way. So he didn't find it that funny, but I did.
I'm sure he didn't. So does Aura have a vocation now?
Yes, a beautiful lawn ornament. Not because she needs to. Honestly, she started wearing a saddle last year, and doing, just basic stuff. But she's going to be with me till her last day. And I have no, I'd love to do something with her, but at the same time, I have no expectations of, after what she's been through, I'm just happy to have her.
Right. Okay. So she may or may not be a riding horse at some point.
I mean, she's sound enough to do something. I obviously wouldn't, I don't know that I would push her to anything too extreme. But, even just like a, backyard trail horse, be bopping around our farm, that perfectly fine. But she's also she can stay here as long as she wants us, a lawn ornament too. That's fine with me.
Yeah. Well, that is a unique story. I don't envy you having gone through that. That was quite a trauma for everybody, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was. But I learned a ton. I really did.
Yeah.
it's everything can be a learning experience, or to realize how resilient you are. Because when she had the baby, she was still pretty wild, and the baby wasn't doing well and she wasn't nursing, and the vet said, you really need to get some colostrum, and so I ended up milking her to get
Oh,
colostrum, which, yeah, on this pretty much wild horse, and I was, and she let me, so in the moments where she needed to be brave and to trust me, she did.
yeah.
So, you know
What was the time frame between the accident in the trailer and her giving birth?
So the accident, I think, was either very end of January, first couple of days in February. And then she gave birth April 1st, I think it was,
Oh, wow.
second.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it really wasn't much time. And I was so focused on taking care of her leg that we weren't working on a lot of other things at that point, just
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that was my main focus, is just keep that leg clean and healthy, and let me handle her every day. So, but she would only let me do things on the side of her leg injury. Her other side, if you went to her other side, you'd be ducking for cover. So
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
It's amazing what they're able to figure out to survive.
Mhm. Yep, it sure
And
is.
do you know what was wrong with the fall other than assuming there was trauma involved?
I really don't. We found her, I would say, maybe an hour after she was born, and she just didn't have the energy to get up. Yeah, and even once we got her up and she was kind of, at least standing, she didn't really want to have anything to do with her. So, whether or not she knew that there was something wrong, I'm
Yeah.
assuming she was a maiden mare, just being so young, 'cause she was only 3.
Yeah.
um I don't know.
Wow. So, but you may have some more babies being born imminently.
Yes, yes.
So you've got 3 new mares that are potentially pregnant?
So 3 of them, well, so one of them is pregnant for sure.
Okay.
She looks like she's ready to pop any day.
Okay.
So as soon as she gets here, she's going straight into the barn with the big birthing
Yeah.
area. So
Yeah.
she'll immediately be in there and all of that way, because it's not very warm in New Hampshire right now, single
Yeah.
digits, teens, lots of
Yeah.
snow. So I don't want any babies dropping on the ground if I don't have to. I'd rather have them in we have a big open barn.
Yeah.
So she'll be in there with them,
And
with
she's a
my
South
old man.
Steens mare?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then the other 2, I don't know, they're nowhere near as far along, if they are. So we'll kind of wait and see. Could be late summer baby, something like that, which would be nice, and it's a little bit warmer and nicer out
Yeah.
than
Yeah. Okay.
February.
Um, Tell us a little bit about your goals and future plans as a Mustang trainer.
It's funny because recently I think they've sort of changed a little bit. I kind of want to focus on, I've got a lot here, and potentially a lot to be born. So, instead of bringing in sort of a steady, bunch of new Mustangs regularly, I think I'm just going to take a step back and really kind of focus on the ones I have for a while. Increase their training, their exposure. Next year at the Equine Affair, we want to have a Mustang promoting booth in the breed pavilion.
Mhm.
There's already a booth in there that promotes them and does a great job. But we just wanted to do sort of an additional one with a lot of, we have a lot of 501c3s around us in New England, and trainers that do the Extreme Mustang Makeover, all sorts of things. And we just want to be able to have, a booth to sort of talk about every way you can get a Mustang, connect with people, educate them on, the truth about range conditions, stuff like that. So
Right.
I think I want to kind of go down that avenue a little bit more on the education of other people piece, and then have more like the meet and greet the Mustangs here at the farm so people can come and see. And that's what we sort of, without planning it, have been doing over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
We've put together such a diverse group of, sizes, shapes, colors, HMAs for people to see that, whatever you want, that it's out there. And so I think it's going to be nice for people to be able to see that in New England and have a place to come and see so many different ones.
right. And Equine Fair is in Massachusetts, correct?
Yes, Springfield, Mass. It's
Springfield.
usually somewhere in the like November 9th, 11th, 12th, 13th, somewhere in that, whatever that week is. It starts on that Thursday and goes through Sunday, but every year. Yes.
Okay. And are you just involved in that one, or do you also come down to Ohio?
I haven't been to the Ohio one. No.
Okay. All right. So you're gonna have a booth under what banner? What is your business name?
So it's going to be under New England Mustang Advocacy, which is my farm / page, that I do on Facebook, which is,
Right.
It morphed over the years. We used to call it a sanctuary, a self-funded sanctuary, but, that kind of confused some people. They thought that, we were a 501c3, which I'm not. I don't ask for donations. So I didn't want, that kind of misconception. And, because I would rehome horses from time to time, some people got really upset that, not all the horses were permanent residents.
Gotcha.
And so, it got to be a little confusing for people. So I said, you know what, let's call it an advocacy, so we can help advocate for them in all different ways, education to people, helping ones that need homes, helping them, connect with people looking for them, just a little bit of everything. So that's kind of where we've changed it to. So, but it's not going to be about me. That's not the point of the booth. It will be, I started to get together people who, run, Mustang rescues in New England, people that train, people that want to bring their Mustangs to the demo that's there and
Right.
just show them off, to just talk to people. So, me and a couple of my friends are going to cover the booth cost. But as far as, people in there that are going to be able to promote their own individual Mustang adventures or business, it's going to be open. And we'll have different people in the booths at different times to be able to talk about, what they're doing in the Mustang community.
Cool. Are there many Mustang trainers and Mustang businesses in New England right now?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Are there many Mustang trainers or Mustang businesses in New England?
There's probably more than I thought originally. A lot of people, kind of like me, they do, a couple horses a year. They may not, it might be in their backyard, and they may not do some of the bigger events, but there's actually quite a bit. And there's a lot of people that have Mustangs that you don't even realize it, and
Yeah.
then you get on some of these Facebook pages and stuff, or you'll go to a clinic and you'll be like, hey, that's a Mustang. And then start talking to them and stuff. So there is a growing number, beyond what was there originally. Cause I think once people, get a Mustang, they're hooked, and
Yeah.
then they get all their friends, and, it spirals out from there. Once you get a few, you're
Yeah.
hooked.
Yeah. I actually got a little upset because I heard there was a plan that they were going to microchip instead of freeze brand on the neck with
Yeah,
Mustangs.
I heard that too.
But when I go to horse shows, I mean, I've literally had dressage judges come out of the booth and say, "Is that a Mustang?"
Wow.
I think it's really cool to maintain that unique brand. So I hope
Yep.
they don't stop the freeze brand, because
Yeah,
that's
I think the ones that are doing it right now are doing it in conjunction, like
okay.
it's both.
Yeah.
Like I know that the forestry department, the Devil's Gardens I got from them, they were microchip but not branded.
Mhm.
But they were like the older horses. I think they still brand the younger ones, especially if they go through like Litchfield.
Yeah.
It depends on, I guess, which, facility they come out of and stuff. But
Mhm.
when I was in Oregon, actually, I asked one of the wranglers there. I was like, hey, can I see the freeze brand?
Mhm.
Complete nerd, right?
Yeah.
And so she took it out and she showed me, they have a big one and a little one, and she showed me how it worked and stuff. So, which is really
Yeah.
cool. So
Yeah, it is. It is. So if someone is in New Hampshire or is visiting New Hampshire and they want to visit your farm, did they just find you and ask for a visit, or how do you do that?
So I have a page on Facebook, New England Mustang Advocacy. It's got my phone number. It's also, you can message me on there, and feel free to shoot me a message and we can set up a time for you to come out. Or if one of the horses is going to be somewhere at an event, or something like that, or even if I'm not close and they want to see some Mustangs that are closer to where they live, I can help them connect with
Right.
someone in their area as well.
Okay. How big is your farm and how many horses do you have total typically?
It's 42 acres. Let's see. Right now we have 27.
And is that full, or could you do more?
Do a couple more. We're actually putting up new paddocks and turnout areas this summer. So we're going to do sort of a little bit more like natural setting in the woods, because we live on basically a mountainside, which is great. So the Mustangs love it. Their feet do great. Like it's a great area, but we've cleared all the areas that they have for turnout now. So we're gonna put fencing through the wooded area so that they have kind of that diverse turnout area as well. So we are expanding. And I plan on rehoming, a few this year anyway, ones that I've worked with and are ready for their next person. So I unfortunately can't keep them all. So I have to occasionally home a few here and there.
Yeah. And how many wild ones do you typically have at a time?
Like completely untouched, or I mean 2 to 4-ish, right now I have a few extra because I ended up getting a mare in foal out of an auction pen, and she was untouched. She's titled and everything, but so she's an extra project that kind of adds to it too. So you have to treat her the same way, but it thankfully there's not a title situation. She's titled and everything like that. So when she's ready for her home, it'll be easier. Sometimes people get confused and nervous about applying for reassignment, stuff like that. So
do you know why they ended up there?
I don't. I can only speculate. So the gentleman that had her had several other mares. They were all turned out with a jack. Whether intentionally, unintentionally, I don't know. But the majority were pregnant or had foaled, which is how I got Salem and Covic. He's a Mustang. Mom is from Sulphur HMA, and my friend Patty, she actually got one as well, that had already foaled. But there's also the load of the mares got purchased by someone, and they're actually at a rescue in New York, but they are looking for homes if anybody.
So the sulfur, I'm interested in that particular herd. How are you finding her temperament to be?
Oh, she's my third sulfur. And I love them. I know that some people consider them to be difficult. And I think it's just because they're so smart. They really are. They're very intelligent horses. And each one, they're individuals, but I have to say Salem is probably one of the calmest, most sensible, curious, and she's sharing that with her foal, which is fantastic because he sees her bravery, and she'll walk over. I just randomly put things in their pen and let them self-explore is how I call it. So I put down like a yoga mat, but like a gym mat, I guess it'd be more. It folds up and it's really foamy and stuff, and I put that in there. And, she sniffed it, walked across it, didn't care. So then he sniffed it, walked across and didn't care. Balls, pool noodles, things like that. She'll walk right up and sniff it, paw at it. That's a natural curiosity. That has nothing to do with my training. That's just her. So, I mean, she's amazing. I can't say anything negative about her. She's a special girl for sure.
Are you handling her yet?
I'm sorry?
Are you handling her yet?
Just basic petting. I've got the halter on her. But she's when did she come? End of December-ish. Yeah, so we're a little bit, I've been focusing a little bit more on Little Wild Man, because he's my first mule, and it's a riot, I will tell you. They are a little different than working with horses or burros for sure, but
Yeah,
he's a lot of personality in a little package, that's for sure.
really. Um, how old was he when he made the trip across to you?
He's 3 to 4 months old.
Okay,
We don't really know. So he was probably in the auction pen around 2-ish months old, which isn't a healthy
okay,
place for a baby. Thankfully they didn't get sick. And the auction pen gave them antibiotics just to sort of,
yeah,
get ahead of anything that could be happening. But yeah, he's had quite the adventure for a short little life.
yeah. And Salem is black, correct?
Yes. Yep. Black. And
Okay.
then she's got 2 white socks in the hind, but other than that, she's pure black. And then he's bay.
Oh, so cute. And how old do you think Salem is? I mean, do you know or are
She
you guessing?
is, yeah, she just turned 4 in January, according to her title. So
Okay, so she is
she,
branded.
she is branded, yes.
Okay,
And we tried to reach out to the gentleman that's on the title. He, gave us a little bit of information, sent us a couple pictures and videos of the mares at his farm, but really didn't want to answer too many questions, which is fine. I
yeah,
appreciated that, they responded at all. So
yeah, okay. So, do you have any specific plan for Salem and her Mustang?
originally I thought, I was gonna keep Covet and the baby, and
Mhm.
mom was gonna be a project to find a home. And she's just got the best brain on her.
Yeah,
I love a horse that's just naturally brave and curious,
yeah,
and her movements are just rocking horse canter. She sets her head down, and she floats when she trots, and like, I'm not even asking, she has this natural carriage about her that I'm like, oh man, I think I'm going to want to keep this one. So I
yeah,
don't know, I really don't know. For the foreseeable future, she's staying here.
yeah.
And I've learned my lesson to, say yay or nay 100%, because that always comes back to bite you later. So I
Yeah,
always say, for the foreseeable future, this is the plan.
yeah, okay. So if somebody wants to follow you, I mean, I will share all the links in the show notes below. But is Facebook the main place where you post, or are you on other social media?
I do a little bit on TikTok, not a lot.
Okay,
But mostly, yeah, mostly it's Facebook.
okay. And that's New England Mustang Advocacy, or, okay, great. Um, I guess my last question is, what advice do you have for first-time adopters?
Do it, just do it. No.
Okay,
They're addicting, so be careful. First time adopters, I would say, um, ask, and no, there's no dumb questions. I feel like a lot of times in the beginning, I didn't know, was it going to sound dumb if I asked this question, because I didn't know. Get on the Mustang communities and whatever, social media that you prefer to operate under, and, follow trainers, watch what they're doing, ask questions. If you go on the BLM website, or Mustang Heritage Foundation, there's, links and information, how to adopt, where to adopt. um People in your area that have Mustangs.
mhm,
It's unlike working with domestic horses in the beginning, for sure.
yeah,
I think you sort of forget what it's like to just say, oh, I'm going to lead my horse from here to there. Well, if it's a wild one, you're not just going to lead it from here to there. And realizing that the beginning part is very different. In the end, they're all horses, and you can work towards doing whatever you want with them, but in the beginning you do have to think about things differently. I would say the biggest takeaway: 6-foot fencing. Don't skip on your fencing.
yeah,
Don't lie on your application. Don't just put up some plastic. That they have those, rules and regulations for a reason. It's for the safety of you and the horse.
right,
Nobody wants a horse getting loose, and trying to catch them. That doesn't always end well. So, fencing is probably one of the biggest, most important investments you can make for sure. And if you
Yes.
don't have it, you connect with people who may have, the setup in your area that you can, board and do the training there till they're comfortable to come home.
Yeah. I've even seen in some of the Mustang communities on Facebook, people will rent corral panels out to a new adopter because they don't have the money to buy them.
Yep.
But they
Yeah,
need
they're expensive.
6 foot fencing. Yeah. Now
There's
they're
people that
especially.
have Oh yeah, and there's some people that have like built sort of like an addition on top of their regular fencing out of 2x4s and stuff. As long as it's sturdy,
Yeah.
I don't think that they have a problem with any of that. Because you don't need a very big pen to start with, so it's not like you need a ton of
Yeah.
the wood or panels, but connect with people. The Mustang community is fantastic about helping each other
Yeah.
do this adventure, and you'd be surprised at what people are willing to help you out with, is what I
Yeah.
found.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, Jen, thanks so much for your time. And
Thank
I
you.
will leave all of your information in the show notes below so that people can connect with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This is fun.